Hi everyone! In this presentation we are going to work on how to create a story. There are 5 basic elements in a story: the characters, the setting, the plot, the conflict, and the resolution. These essential components keep the story running smoothly and allow the action to develop in a logical way for the reader to follow. The characters. They are the individuals that take part in the story. They should be introduced by providing detailed description of both their physical attributes and personality traits. They undergo some change that causes a turn of events, which makes the story interesting and helps deliver a message. In every story, there is the main character called the protagonist, who determines the way the plot will develop and the actions that will take place. However, secondary characters are also very important because they supply additional details, explanations, or actions which help move the story along. These can be divided into supporting characters and minor characters. Supporting characters are essential to the plot as they play a direct role and have a heavy impact on the storyline. By contrast, minor characters exist primarily for the purpose of making the story more interesting and relatable. The story could still be told without them, but it would be harder and unnatural. The setting. Setting is the location of the action. It's important to describe the environment or surroundings of the story in such detail so that the reader can picture or visualize the scene. Some elements to take into consideration are the location, the elapsed time encompassed in the story, the mood and atmosphere, the climate, the social, political, and cultural environment, or the time of the day or the year, for example. The plot. This is the actual story. It should have a very clear beginning, middle, and end, with all the necessary descriptions and suspense so that the reader can make sense of the action and follow along from start to finish. The plot is also made up of 5 main parts. The exposition is the beginning of the story and prepares the way for the upcoming events. The characters are introduced, the setting is established, and the major conflicts in the story are revealed. The rising action occurs when the main problem or conflict is addressed with a form of action. The protagonist often encounters some sort of crisis that creates some tension. The climax is when the protagonist deals with the culmination of events and often centers on the protagonist's most difficult challenge or bleakest moment. The falling action occurs immediately after the climax and details the consequences, which can be good or bad, after the turning point of events. It leads up to the resolution and sets the stage for the final chapter of the story. The resolution tells us what happens to the characters after the conflict is resolved. It gives a sense of closure so the reader can understand the fate of the protagonist. The conflict. Every story has a struggle or a problem that needs to be fixed and is the center of the plot. We can distinguish 2 types of conflict. External one, which take place between a character and another person, or between a character and something non-human, for example, nature. The internal conflict that takes place into a character's mind, which means inner struggle. And finally, the resolution, which has been mentioned before in the parts of the plot. It's important that the resolution fits the rest of the story in the tone and creativity and solves all the parts of the conflict. And now, let's have some practice. Please choose the correct option. And here you've got the answers. I hope you liked it.